On to some stories. Obviously, we have titled this episode as Parents, Children, and the Toxicity around it. I mean, we discussed about parents, we discussed about children. on to the toxicity that we were mentioning, particularly how women are treated when they are around that age. Is how parents sort of force them to get married. So there's this one story which I heard from my one of my friend. What happened is the male's
The
family
guy's family.
is explaining that they have
The guy. This male female sounds so like weird in this context.
sorry
Yeah.
the
Guys.
the guy
Yeah.
the guy's the guy's family, thank you, the guy's family explains that they have this much land, like farming land. And then this is my friend who was explaining this, and she asked, what should I do? Should I go and stand in the middle of that farming land as a scarecrow? Is that what you want me for? Right? And that got cancelled, as in because she was not ready to marry. And then a year later, as it happened, that guy had gotten married to someone else, divorced, right, for unknown reasons, and then came back to the same girl's house and asked, now that you're over 30 and then your matrimonial prospects are bleak at the best, shall we marry? I am a divorcee, obviously, but I still have that.
I love the male audacity, bro. You say what you want about all of this situation, but I like the guy's audacity in this for sure.
No, it's indeed. I mean, the position they put. I mean, the thing is, it's not the guy or girl, isn't it? It's a family discussing as well.
True.
And I am okay with the guy's family, who now they have a divorcee male in their house, which they won't find a mate for. But what on the earth are this girl's family thinking, even to accommodate the same people in the house for the second time after
they
a year?
invited him like back again.
Yeah, sort of. That's what has happened. I mean, everyone knew
Damn.
it. So, you know what I mean? So that's the sort of toxicity I'm talking about. Now, keep everyone aside, that the girl, think about what must be going through her head. And she was talking about having this serious mental health issues at that point, because obviously she's an independent woman which is not recognized, not in the family, let alone the society. So, you know what I mean? So that's one. And the other story is the one which one of my friend told. The Shiva Sati story.
Yeah. So
Do you know the story?
Yeah.
Do you mind care to explain it?
Yeah. So Shiva is this cool cat who is always hanging out with people who are quote unquote outcast in society, like his ganas, and he's got this this badass bull that he rides on, smeared in ash, dreadlocks, and like is constantly chilling. And then all of a sudden, this very pretty young girl is attracted to his way of life, because he's amidst everything he's still happy and joyful, and so naturally she's drawn towards him, she's attracted to him, and then she falls in love with him. And then her father, who's again a great owner of all farmlands and whatnot in his time, is disapproving of the marriage or of the union. And I think there's this big yajna that Daksh Maharaj has, and he firstly doesn't invite Shiva. Then when he does, also I think he insults Shiva in some way or form, is not allowed to get into the yajna or something of that sort. And then those repetitive insults, or those small nudges which were pestering Sati, couldn't handle it, and I think she offers herself to the yajna pyre that they had lit. And that's when Shiva's that's when its Ugra Rupa comes in. Shiva becomes not so
Yeah,
Shiva
so he
anymore.
becomes
He becomes
Veerabhadra.
Rudra. Yeah, but do you know? Okay, just on a side note, do you know what the meaning of Shiva is? Just the meaning Shiva.
No.
It's auspicious.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so every name of each of the deities. So in Shiva it's auspicious. In again, Veerabhadra is Rudra. So you have that in Sanskrit. Just on a side note, all of this in literature, some of those words convey the meaning in itself, right? So in Sanskrit is a very peculiar language of that. Like so, for example, Jagat, the word Jagat is Jaga Jaga Jaga, constantly changing. So that word, the tone of that word in itself will signify its meaning. So
Mm-hmm.
all the Shiva, Veerabhadra, Rudra, all of that has that aggressive tone in it. So um, then you look at Mahadeva, Shambho, all of that is relaxed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So while that happens, and then Shiva gets mad, of course, and then chops off his father-in-law's head, and then he feels sorry that he did that, and then he replaces it with the goat's head, and then eventually Daksh Maharaj is approving of Shiva and all that. By then, I mean all of this is done, and he lives with this goat head with a human body forever. But this is a story that a lot of people. I remember people glued to their screen, either watching it or listening to the story, and then saying that, oh, look at their love and everything. But if you brought home a guy like that, and you were a pretty young girl,
Exactly. So that's my
yeah,
point. I mean, that was my friend's point. She
yeah,
said that you listen to this
mm,
story from your
yeah,
grandmother,
yeah,
right? And the moral of the story at the end is don't judge a book by its
mm,
cover. Like, so the Shiva character, he might be living an ascetic life, and then Daksha
mm,
Maharaj, who is the his father-in-law in the story, he might be thinking that Shiva is not of the same
yeah,
status as him. So that's why he primarily opposes Sati's marriage to Shiva, right? And the moral of the story is just that's not
mm,
important in the way of life or the status. It's ultimately love is what's important. But when it comes to children's
mm.
marriage, or they are simply not taking any of this into account.
That's true.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? For instance, let's change Shiva and Sati by, say, a millennial couple from, say, city like
Mm,
Bangalore, say Rahul and Priya.
mm,
Priya sort of immolates herself out of the sheer disrespect
mm.
that her father is shown to
Yeah.
Rahul. And then there is one suicide that we have been talking
Mm,
about. Then second, say Rahul gets an angry, he kills um, the
mm,
father-in-law,
mm.
say, and there is one murder. So this is the toxicity which has been given to us as mythological
Yeah,
stories,
but
which we listened from our grandparents, but it's never put into
no, but
practice.
to be honest, so I this is something that has in my spiritual life of seeking and everything. These are questions that I've confronted myself with, like oh, because even there in in the descriptions of the Puranas, uh, all characters are essentially flawed. They're not someone who's supremely perfect in every aspect of it, right? So there was this somebody who goes to this Swamiji and asks Swamiji that I don't know why this is all frowned upon. Krishna had like so many wives. Why shouldn't I be having so many wives? And like etc etc. But then what the Swamiji told was quite fascinating. See, you have the four wives. It's not a problem. But Krishna lifted a mountain also in his little finger. Can you do it? Like he lived the life of Gita. Can you do it? So there is a very convenient thing of picking certain things and not the whole. So I think this false equivalence where that old saying, right? The devil will quote the scriptures per convenience. It's something like that. We pick what is nice of a specific deity or an individual or whatever it is, and we don't do the rest of it. So while I agree that the ascetic life of Shiva, which was not accepted as wealth and everything. But if you bought home a Shiva, it is different.
Yeah,
As opposed to just bringing home some guy in
yeah.
the park who's putting a joint and who lives in a very weird life. So you either take it as a whole, or you don't take it, or you don't pick and choose per convenience. So that's one uh, aspect of thing that I think which is inherently flawed in people who interpret religion also per their convenience. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's a nice story though. On to the next story, uh, which is from a friend who explained to one of my friends, as if she's trying to do the matchmaking, and she explains everything. Oh, this guy is from a higher caste and everything will fit everything, and then you should definitely consider this and blah blah blah. And to the end, she says he's disabled. He has only one leg. Hope that's okay. Like and the reason why she is bringing this prospect is because the other girl is over 30, and then, as I said, there are slim chances of getting married in the usual manner or to a normal person. So why don't you consider this upper caste person with without one leg? Like what are people thinking in there? I mean, there is definitely some wrong thought process going in people's mind. On to the next. Uh, guy was not ready to marry the bride because she was earning more than him, which is that sorry not accepted. And then somebody asked if the other person could stop eating non-vegetarian food for the sake of marriage, and such stories which is happening in day-to-day life in India for many
Look,
people.
see, as long as I think in that's one reason why I'm for at least like love marriage initially, because like with love marriage, it's not like this forced compromise in this arranged marriage setting where you ask something, and because you're not that level of intimacy isn't there, it's all of a sudden like it's like you take offense to it. But like if I genuinely loved a girl, and then like the girl understands that my family is a vegetarian family, and then she cannot eat meat in my house, that's the sacrifice probably she'll be willing to make. And like vice versa, if I cannot sit and drink in her house, like I cannot have a bar in her
Yeah,
room because her parents don't drink. So but I don't know, like I think but see, however you look at it, however you put this jigsaw puzzle, no, my ultimate thing is that as far as marriage is concerned, it's like it's adjustment, it's compromises, it's
yeah,
adjustment, and
that's
it's
true.
sacrifices. I don't ever think that um, even if you agree upon like most things, it's those small things where you diverge which will anyway irritate you forever eventually. So it's
Yeah, I mean, see, it makes sense that after marriage you make certain adjustments, not sacrifices. I mean, say if you don't want someone eating or drinking, for example, alcohol in your house, it's fine. They should be at least free to drink elsewhere,
yeah,
for example,
yeah.
in a pub, right? But the marriage being cancelled, or the prospect being neglected uh, because of the requirements that they put upfront, saying that for this marriage to happen, you should give up your eating habits. You know what I mean? Which is not fair. Yeah. You can have your eating habits elsewhere, but not in the in the space that we cohabit. So things like that. But anyway, that those are the stories from
But so
stories from the matrimonial
yeah,
world.
and I spoke like few. So again, because guys don't share as much as they are supposed to, right? It's like they're not vocal about rejection, especially if they're the ones who've gotten rejected.
Mm.
So I took the liberty of asking a few friends who have this arranged marriage thing uh, about how they did it, and some of them actually got married quite earlier on, like in the sense when they were 24 or 25. Guys I'm talking about, they were already married. So one says that like for guys, I think we're a lot more linear in thinking, right? And this is one guy who's just like, listen, I saw this girl, most of it aligned. I had no reason to say no. Like, this was the first girl I met, and I found no reason to say no. And the next week we were like engaged. Like, I pretty much didn't have anything. The other dude said he got rejected, twice. Again, because of things like, oh, he was fat, he had gray hair, like he was 26 at the time, and Bangalore boys are cursed with premature graying because of the great water that we have, right? So they're like, oh, he's gray hair, he's got a lot of gray hair. I'm like, dude, she should have been glad that you've got hair, because I know people who got rejected because they were bald, or they were balding at least. So, and the girl literally goes like, and the motta talagoda na enna panno, and like things like that. So I think, but with guys, it's just that we are so used to fat shaming each other, and like in a regular context, that we just like rub it off, saying, oh, it is what it is. But even with the money aspect, one interesting thing that one of my friend told me, who got married quite early on in his life, was like, he was of the view that people should get married early, because at that stage they were very both of them started their careers, they were earning quite less, and so they're like, see, when you're used to living so below your means, and when you start from zero, and when you grow together, that love is something else, because you've lived with each other with bare minimum or nothing, and then you grow eventually to build a life. And so that part of it, it's from his perspective, it seemed good. So this other,
I mean, such things usually happen in that love marriage, right? You're in love when you're growing from that.
Oh, this was arranged.
You're probably zero, and then you become.
Yeah.
I mean, usually this happens in love, and then that point when that's what you see in movies, at least, where there is that point when you're successful and things turn around, and then you get married and it gets even better. But I guess the logic works for
arranged marriage also. And the most
on.
interesting thing about young arranged marriage that I've heard is from the Jain community. Okay, they're just fantastic thought process that they have. So I've spoken about this to a lot of people who are Marwadis and Jains and all that, and they're just smart as hell when it comes to this, right? So they're like, listen, our idea is simple. 21, 22, when your hormones are active, when you're most likely to, be high on alcohol and low on morals, that's when you just get married, right? So you have a house, you have a person to come home to, you've got some sort of responsibilities. And by the time if you're married at 21, by the time you're 24 or 25, you have been married for 4 years, and practically you're bored now. So you decide to induce some drama, and that's when you bring in kids to your life, right? And so at 25 or 26, if you're a father, by the time you're 46 years old, your child is already 20, which means is an independent child that can live its own life without, staying in the grandparents' house or whatever, while you are still young relatively, and you're traveling around with your wife on a vacation and all that. So your peak earning potential is stagnant at 40. So if you get married only at 30, by the time the 40, the kid is still 10. You're still planning for the school, the college, the expenses and everything. But here, in your peak, when you're in your peak earning, you're chilling. And the grandparents are still young, to take care of the child. So when you're 26, your parents are still young. They are running around with the child while you still do your work and everything. And I felt that was absolute genius. And then I heard this only when I was 27. I was like, damn, I'm 7 years late. I should have got married when I was 21 as well. It made so much sense, man. It's so, it's economical, it is practical. I like at 46, you're relatively young.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was a big, for me, that was a big home run for a 21-year-old being arranged marriage. I was sold. And that's when I started contemplating that, this is why probably they were in favor eventually in the past of child marriage also. Start even more sooner, which is messed up. Okay, this is dark humor though. This is dark humor, clearly.